Hello, you lovelies. Let's talk about Dune Prophecy Episode 2, which I thought was a fairly sizable step up, for me at least, from Episode 1. If you're new to this page, I do comic book news and reviews, as well as movie reviews and news, and now a lot more TV. I've been really enjoying doing especially genre-centric TV, and these reviews, by the way, are coming from someone who loves the Dune movies. I adore Dune 1 and 2. What Denis Villeneuve did really brought me into the world of Dune in a way I did not expect. So I love those movies, but have very little to no exposure to the books whatsoever. So this isn't spoilers for books I haven't read, but it will be spoilers for Episode 2. That's all I know so far in this world of Dune. So full spoilers for Episode 2. Leave a comment below. Let me know what you thought of Dune Episode 2. And please, 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 hit that subscription bell and hit that like so this video goes far and wide like the sands of Arrakis. Let's discuss Dune Prophecy. This show, Episode 1, felt very much like a very heady, high budget, better than the average, but that old school 90s, 2000s sci-fi energy. And that was a good thing to me because I've been really trying to get into deeper sci-fi, especially after how much I loved Dune 1 and 2, but that's also a bit of a barrier of entry. Whereas if this hadn't been called Dune, if it didn't tie into that world, I don't know that I would have kept going with the show after Episode 1. It was like a B+ for me. There was a lot right. I love the production design. I really liked a lot of the choices the actors made, but I had a really hard time connecting to the characters, and I had a hard time connecting to the story overall because it is a chess match of very rich folk navigating a world of trade and spice and not stuff I deal with very often. So there was a barrier of entry where, again, if it had not been in this world, I might not have kept going. But luckily, Episode 2 gave me all the things I wanted out of Episode 1, and it further endeared me to this world, both in the broad and narrow sense. I love a lot of the characters we're getting richer into. I adore the world building that feels so galactic in scale. I compare Dune to Star Wars in a lot of ways because the Star Wars fandom I was always jealous of. I love the original trilogy. I grew up liking Star Wars, but as Star Wars grew, I didn't connect to it as much as I had, and I love when there's a passionate fandom, and if I don't feel like I can dabble in it, I get jealous. I'm like, man, I wish I loved that as much. That's why I don't like hateful reviews for the sake of hate, because it's coming from a place of me wanting to have that joy for 2 hours that you did, or that joy for 8 hours of a show or whatnot. I always want to feel that passion, and I just haven't connected to Star Wars in that way since the original trilogy, Last Jedi notwithstanding. And this Dune universe, this new era of Dune, starting with Denis Villeneuve's first one, not talking about the Lynch film, but the Denis film with Zendaya and Chalamet, I felt that. I felt what I think Star Wars fans feel, that passion, that lore, that myth, that scope, that grandiose, yes. So when the show started, I was thinking like, okay, this will be a long form way for me to get into this world. And this episode was much like Dune 1 and 2, immediately like, man, I'm tempted to read the books after this. Man, I want to dive deeper. Man, I'm curious about these characters. It wasn't just the visuals, wasn't just the acting, it was the actual lore. This episode had incredible scenes of, you know, playing chess with each other and people emotionally manipulating and leveraging and using these cunning tactics, including sleeping with princesses and princes and getting information out of people, including being willing to manipulate by murdering, by turning negatives into positives. And I love the stuff they have here with the wife of Mark Strong's character. Mark Strong in that first episode was a highlight for me because he always plays this confident, strong, capable, very sure of himself character. Seeing Mark Strong play someone unsure, playing someone that was trepidatious, playing someone that was uncertain was delightful. And then in the second episode, he's still that guy. Incredible performance, but he's added a layer of competence because he has this weapon. So the competence and the confidence fuels this new take, this evolving take on this character that makes me so much more interested in him. Then you've got the Bene Gesserit, who I have always loved the concept of the kind of occult, witchy energy being used in a sci-fi way to communicate and run the strings of the entire galaxy. Like, to be pulling the strings, and in some ways literally pulling strings, but like manipulating with just hand signals and whispers, and just the idea of the occult mixing with like Illuminati, mixing with space witches, like all of that's awesome. This episode leans into that even heavier than the movies because we get into the literal mind's eye of a character. We see, a deeper taste of what we saw with that, worm pea, with the hallucinogenic thing that comes from Arrakis, that comes from the sandworm. We see the transformation it gives Lassana Al Gaib in Dune 2, but here we see it as it's happening in real time. We see this incredible hallucinogenic, psychedelic journey that is equal parts enlightening and terrifying. We see the knowledge we get out of it. We see the visuals of this spiral of almost Dementors, the Rotmaned, but we also see the facial reconstruction of the grandma and like the concepts of aging and perception all in real time, all while getting lots and lots of incredible exposition, all while finding out it's another chess move. She's willing to sacrifice her granddaughter for the sake of screwing over the hope. She took away their hope by ending that future line. All of that is genius. It shows the stakes of the show. I really thought that kid was going to be one of the leads the rest of the season. I love that everything feels like it's possible. So I didn't expect that incredible chessboard sex scene to be so plot forward. I mean, HBO leans heavy into that, but it's actually cool to see it used as a manipulation tactic. Very impressed with that. Very impressed with the psychedelic sequence of the intensity of this world that we didn't even get to see theatrically. Love the world building of seeing the effects of unleashing that king back to his world and like as a threat, like he's covered in burns and all of the elements. And Travis Fimmel, man, I think that's his name. What an incredible, nuanced, insane performance. Little twitches, little eye glances, little furrowed brows, all very still, barely blinking wide-eyed. And his manipulation, I feel like he's playing everyone. Like, I love that last scene so much with the Mother Superior and him playing her down to the last minute, him manipulating her, him looking for her fear. What does she fear most? No one listening, speaking and have someone not follow that command. That is an incredible moment. We get to hear the voice a little more refined, not quite as refined as it is 10,000 years later in Dune, but a bit more refined. And we get to see it not work on someone because he's of stronger mind. He's playing the long game. I love him getting the wife on, his side. I loved it for a while there. I thought the wife might have hired him to kill the kid. And I love that. I think that strongly of her being willing to do anything to win. I love that we're seeing her take charge and Mark Strong starting to listen to her, and that dynamic, happy wife, happy life, being for the best, it's going to fall apart inevitably. I love that we get the double agent in Wes Bentley looking dude, and Wes Bentley looking dude, again, the guy that slept with the other princess, his arc of being a double agent but also working for that whole new crime syndicate we're discovering is going to be, unraveling from the inside. I love the politics of that. The dude basically spelling out the plans of this undercurrent, and then the bartender with the blue eyes, the one I think from Arrakis because of her eyes, basically being willing to give him up. Like, there's so many people playing so many different games, everyone leveraging knowledge, leveraging power, leveraging what they think is for the greater good, and everyone just trying to survive. Like, what makes sci-fi cool is seeing the human element in an extraordinary circumstance. Everyone is just trying to survive like a rat in a maze, and it's on a galactic scale. And because of this, I mentioned earlier Star Wars, and the point I wanted to end at was, with Star Wars, I always feel like it's surrounding one family. Everything feels like it's tied to the Skywalkers. I was a little worried when I saw that this was Harkonnens and Atreides. I do not feel like it feels small. It feels like the prequel trilogy. I was worried that everything led to Anakin, led to Luke. Here, it feels far enough removed. It doesn't feel like we know the inevitability of what's to come. Any of these Atreides or Harkonnen can die because there's more bloodline. They're not the only ones. Any of these characters can go. I thought for a moment Travis Fimmel might bite it, but obviously that was a manipulation that I fell for. I was manipulated. I also think the show is using those names to have us expect stuff. It's manipulating us. When I see Harkonnen, I assume bad, so it's giving me an informed decision on the sister. It's giving me thoughts about Atreides inherently being good. I don't know if that dude that's a descendant of Atreides is inherently good. I like that he's traditionally handsome and swashbuckly, so I'm like, I hope he's a good guy. But him and the other princess are clearly using each other. And I love that scene with the fight and how it was so much more than a fight and how it's so much of them getting closure and wrapping stuff up and moving the plot forward, but visually, really impressed with the visual language of this show, really impressed with a lot of the circular imagery. Again, the production design maintains its incredible tie to the two films. It feels so big in scope. It feels galactic. It feels like big sci-fi, and I'm just really impressed overall. So I would love to hear what you think of episode 2. That psychedelic sequence is one of my favorite images to come out of a TV in a bit. The show still is a bit meandering, seemingly at points, but I feel like it's all going to tie up nicely. There's a lot less pacing issues with episode 2 than I had with 1. It's still like an A-. It's not in that A range yet, but it's low A's, and I do think it's a step up from episode 1, but it still has some room to grow for me. But I think the more I like these characters, the more I know these characters, and then the more empathetic I am to these characters, the more I'll identify with these characters, which will then lead me to connect to the plot, which will then make me better suited for the pacing and for the lefts and rights and stuff. I'll be more invested. So I think as the show goes, I'm going to like it more and more. That's certainly the case between 1 and 2. We'll find out if that is the case with episode 3, which will be next week. So hit that notification bell to find out when I drop that video, and hit that subscribe if you don't have to do that for notification bell. I don't know how YouTube works, but hit it. We are approaching 40K, and I'm so very proud of how much this channel has grown. And leave a comment below because I want to talk Dune Prophecy. The reasons genre content is so amazing is the community it builds and the conversations that can be had from it. So let's talk about it down below. Like, comment, subscribe, press YouTube buttons. I'll see you lovely soon. I appreciate you, and we'll be back next week. And this week, between now and then, we've got more comics to talk about with This Week in Comics. We've got potentially I got a couple surprises for you, and then obviously next Sunday more Dune. So much love, guys.